Alright guys, welcome back to the kind of hints and tips videos. This is the second of the 4-part series looking into how to better your game. The first video, which has already been released, was about getting your swing tempo and swing line a lot better and trying to implement that onto the course in kind of real time. Feedback on that's been really good. I've had a couple of guys actually message me saying it's completely changed their game within even an hour of using it. So it's not just about me showing you guys a method and saying, right, go and use that, because my method isn't going to work on everybody. What it's actually shown is a couple of the areas I looked at was about when things go wrong and how to fix them and why they go wrong. So just like rotating your controller around, or turning the angle down to the ground, or changing your thumb position, or making it more comfortable or less resistance on the swing. A lot of these things are things that people didn't actually realise, and showing them that has allowed them to go and play the round what they feel a lot more confidently, and they feel they can work out, they can spend more time working out elevation and wind and things like that, because they know they're going to potentially pull off a good shot. So in this video I've bracketed it under the name of hazards. It's not so much hazards like bunker and water and things like that, it's more natural hazards, the things that are going to get in your way from going from tee to green, and those can be things like elevation, they can be the wind, they can be your lie angle, your lie condition. Any of those things are classed as a natural hazard, that it's not just as simple as playing a shot up and down, up and down, up and down and a putt. It's nothing like that. We will be covering more of the chipping aspect within the kind of 100 yards in other videos. Part 3 and 4 will be looking at approaching the green, and then part 4 will be looking at around the green and on the green. So we won't be focusing too much about what's happening coming up to the green. We're going to be looking at what's going to be happening really is your setup to get onto that, and then we'll be looking at your approach shot as a second. So hopefully you've got your swing down to a decent enough level that you can now move on to this and feel confident that what we're going to talk about is going to be relayed back to you guys. I'll be straight up with you, I've had actually quite a lot of controller issues today. I was getting a lot of slows and fasts earlier on, which to be honest weren't justified. And I've done a wee couple of changes, and I've got a wee setup in my cupboard under the stairs in my PC. I've went over that, done a couple of training things, used what I've done in that previous video and came back, and it seems to be okay. But for the purpose of this video we should be alright. Okay, so I've got us on the first tee at Belmore National Golf Course. This is a great course. I think this is a user submitted course which I'm planning on doing a review on, but for the purpose of this it's great because this first hole's a great example of crosswinds. So I've set the wind on this to medium, which is producing a kind of between 7 and 10 wind speed. So first thing we're going to look at is landing zones, right? You will get a decent player who will just come down and just play their shot on this fairway, right? This is a relatively quiet fairway, not a lot of bumps, but what you want to look at is landing zone. You want to look out at rolling out zone. That aiming reticle is obviously where your landing zone is going to be, and your ball's going to roll out to a fair amount. If we played that shot, right, let's say it's 7 mile per hour, so it's not going to be too bad. If I played that shot, then now potentially we can have the ball landing just after that and rolling out to the right side of the fairway. So you don't want to be aiming your shot so much left to work with the wind. What you can actually do is use your draw and fade, and I ideally only use these on tee shots. They can be used on iron to combat the wind, but personally I prefer just using it on the tee. So from a 7 mile per hour wind, right, we've got a left to right crosswind here. Let's just say that's an exact left to right crosswind, not really, but let's say it is, and it's 7 mile per hour. If I was wanting to play my tee shot, I would aim that where I want my ball to land, so about here, and I would put 1 notch on for a 7 mile per hour. If you're up in the region of between kind of 11 and 12, you want to put 2 notches, and a 2 notch would be 1, 2, and I'm using my D-pad on that, right? So for the purpose of this, we're going to do 1 notch for a 7 mile per hour, and that means that when the ball goes up in the air, it's going to slightly want to push to the left, but then the wind's going to bring it back in, and it will ride the wind, get a couple more yards, and land roughly where we want that ball to land, which is here. So we're just going to play a shot. Okay, so I've pulled that slightly left just on my swing. You can see it now coming back in because of the wind. and we land it. So I didn't have to do anything with my aiming reticle there. That was all done with draws and fades, right? And again, the first thing I do is hit L2 on my shots. So now we're on the fairway. We're looking at a 166 yard shot. We're not interested in the green, right? We'll come to that in a wee second. I'm not going to cover too much about this lie angle, this grid that you can see here, because you guys already should know what the green's about. But just to briefly go over it, your horizontal lines going from left to right are the lines to show you whether or not the ball is above your feet or below your feet. The vertical lines, which are the ones going from the bottom of the screen heading towards the hole, tell you whether or not your ball's lying on a slope, whether or not it's a ramp up to the hole or whether it's a ramp going down. If you can imagine it ramping down or ramping up. So the lines going from left to right that you can see there very, very slowly is going to tell me that my ball's going to very slightly drift from left to right to the hole. If those lines were going in opposite direction, the ball's going to drift right to left. Personally, for a speed like that, I'm not going to make any adjustments, but if they were going quite fast or they were an amber or they were a red, you would really need to consider moving your shot over to the right just to combat that. Okay, so the lines that you see going from the bottom of the screen going down is telling me that the ramp is going downhill, so it's as if I'm facing downhill on this shot towards the hole. That could mean that the face would have to be opened very, very slightly to ensure that the ball doesn't come out too fast. If I played this, it could be quite a low aggressive shot, not on a speed like this, but if it was a red or amber, you could have a low aggressive shot and it could end up the back of the green and you wonder why, because the yardage isn't right. And the opposite would be if it was running from the back line to the bottom of the screen, you would maybe want to think about closing the face on your shot, which is just going to counteract the fact that you've got a hill coming down towards you. So there's ways to combat that, but personally I don't bother too much about the slope for the vertical line. I concentrate more on the horizontal line. So that's the first thing I check on every shot. It's just that. I'm not going to make any amendments in this for the purpose of the video. Next thing I'll look at is my green. 166 yards to the pin. The club it's automatically selected me is 172 yards 7 iron, but let's change it just for the purpose to 8 iron. On this game, you've not got a mass amount of spin. You do have spin, right? We spoke about that in previous videos, but you don't have the spin in where you can drop the ball down and spin it back 10 feet, 10 yards, whatever it is. So what you need to think about doing is actually rolling the ball up. So you need to land the ball between kind of 7 and 10 feet and let the ball roll up to the pin. That's going to be the preferred shot on the majority of greens. So a shot of about 60 yards to a roll out of 66 would be perfect, but that is just to the pin. Underneath that, you've got an elevation change. That's telling you that it's actually up 10 foot, and it's telling you that it's up because of that arrow. So there's a calculation for this. There's not a lot of calculations when it comes to things like wind or playing from rough and anything, but on this we do have a calculation. For every 3 foot of a change, whether it's up or down, that is going to add or take away 1 yard on your shot. So for the sake of this video, this is going to be just 3 and a bit. So if you divide 10 by 3, it's going to work out about kind of 3.33 or whatever it is. I can't remember what it'll be, but it'll be 3 point something. So we're going to add 3 yards on top of that 166, which is telling you that it's going to play 169 yards. If it was the opposite way, you would want to be taking 3 away, and then it would be 163 yards because it's going down. It's telling you that the ball's below your feet on your shot, but we can clearly see because of that hill that it's up 10 foot. That's the easy way to work it out. Quick calculation, if it was 30 yards up, you would want to add 10 yards on. If it was 30 yards down, you would want to take away 10 yards. That's the basic principle of it. If you're talking about 1 or 2 yards up or down, don't bother about changing it. So a shot like this is going to run out. The pin is going to play 169 yards. So that 160 we've got could potentially be okay. It means it's going to land and run out. We're probably going to be just a wee bit short of the hole. Next time I'm going to look at is my green. What's happening with the green? Well, look at the horizontal lines. They're going right to left here. So if I was centralised here, that means that my ball's going to run, and just like putting, it's going to drift off to the left. I would want to do that because my ball's going to land roughly about here, and then it's going to run down to the hole, which is ideal. Okay, let's look at the vertical lines. That's telling you that it's a slope running away from that. Okay, so maybe the 160 yard isn't going to get there, because if you can imagine, you've got to putt uphill here. So if we weren't taking wind into consideration, I'd be telling you to lower the loft on that, probably till about there, and that's going to be quite a decent shot. You're probably going to land a shot about here, and it's going to roll up to the hole. That's going to be quite a decent one. I could be confident enough to hit that. So we've got a crosswind here. Crosswind of 8 mile an hour, just like we did on the shot. There is guys I know who will bring out and they will change their draw or their fade, just like we done on the tee shot. Personally, I don't do that. The wind, there's no set calculation. There isn't really anything you can work out when it comes to the wind. The only thing you can say is that it's done by experience. So personally, an 8 mile per hour wind on an 8 iron shot for me is going to be about that. But remember, we want to be slightly right of the hole. So about that should be fine. But look at the way it's angled. It's now actually changing where it's coming on our face a wee bit more. So our de-loft that we originally done might not be enough. We maybe want to put a wee bit more on it. You might also want to think about changing that up to a 7 iron and then de-lofting it, lofting it up slightly. There's a number of things you can do, but I'm more comfortable in bringing in a club which potentially might land shorter. So I'm going to just hit this shot and see what happens. Again, using the technique from the first video, rotate round to the left of my belly and make sure my finger's in the right place and just give it a nice comfortable swing. I'm not going to be too aggressive here. Likelihood is we're probably going to be right of the pin and short. Okay, not a bad effort. So you can see the effects on the wind had there. The ball actually started off quite left of the hole, then it drifted over and the wind pulled it up and it landed short. So we've now left ourselves with actually quite a decent birdie opportunity. We're not going to be putting in this video for the simple fact is we're going to be covering putting. So we're going to just jump over to create lie angles. So we'll come back in and I'll show you, not lie angles, lie conditions, sorry, but also lie angles as well. So we'll be back just a wee second. Okay, so we're now on the second hole here. It was a par 3, but I've just drifted the ball down to the right here just to show you what it's like from a light rough scenario. So this is a fairly flat ground, which is absolutely perfect. Again, you would want to take into consideration the horizontal lines, and maybe, if you were being picky, the vertical lines going to the hole, but not much change is needed here. That's the first thing I look at. Next thing I'll look at is what club I've got. It's giving me a sand wedge flop shot here, but we know that we can go down to lob wedge if needs be. We also know we can go up to gap or pitching wedge on flops. So I think the sand wedge is going to be okay there now, just looking at it. We want to come down and look at the green just like we would with a putt. So we know if we land a wee bit short, we probably want to be over about here if we're at the beginning of the aiming reticle, but if it took it up to the hole, we pretty much want to be just right, very, very slightly over the hole. The wind on flop shots doesn't affect it as much as you would think. It's very, very slight. To be honest, a 7 mile per hour headwind like that would really be about 1 or 2 mile per hour. It's really quite a lot. I'm more than likely going to work out my shot without working out the wind. The only time the wind would really affect it is if it was a tailwind and it's maybe going to add 1 or 2 yards onto it. But to be honest, a 7 mile per hour on a flop shot, it's not really going to be a biggie. The one thing you want to look at is the very top right of the screen where it tells you your lie percentage, which is 88 to 93%. That tells you that between 88 and 93% of your ball is exposed, meaning that roughly you're going to experience, let's say we put that in the middle at 90%, you're going to experience a 10% reduction in spin, a 10% reduction in shot, a 10% reduction in rollout, basically a 10% reduction on everything you do in your shot. So this goes 30 yards, I would expect this to go 27 yards, right? That's the rough expectation which is going to happen. Does that happen? No. Doesn't happen at all. A lot of the time when you're chipping around the green and you're flopping around the green, it will give you a random number just like that, and you think, well, if it's going to go 27 yards, I maybe want to be thinking about going to that club, because then 36 is going to be roughly about what kind of 33, which is probably going to be ideal for the hole, and you work all that out and then all of a sudden your ball goes smack past the hole because it actually comes out normal. So if it is in the 90s, if your shot is playing about with more than 90, so 88 to 93, I would say our average of that is about 90. If you're at about 90%, personally, I would play that normal. I wouldn't discount any difference in your shot at all, because it's not going to benefit you. If you were in the 80s, so let's say it was about an 82 to an 85 difference, and you worked it out as being about kind of 81 or 82, if you're in that kind of figure, I'd be looking at a reduction of roughly about 10%. If you're in the 70s, you're going to be looking at around about a 20. And work that out as a 20%. So if it does say to you, if it's 30 yards, if you're working out 20% of that, you're going to be 6 yards. So it's going to be a 6 yard difference well being in the 70s. So if it's 70%, I would say this flop shot's going to go roughly about 24 yards carry, right? So a 24 yard carry is probably going to be ideal on a shot like this, because it is running down to the hole. So personally, on light rough, I would take it with a pinch of salt. Light rough, I would probably just play it as a normal shot, unless you're playing a 200 yard shot and at the green. That's when your figures become a wee bit more different, but for the sake of this, we're just going to play this normally. So personally, I think this flop shot's going to be a wee bit too much. I think we're going to have a bit of bother coming out here, so I'm just going to bring the loft up slightly, which means that it's just going to land just a wee bit sooner, and also going to get just a wee tad spin on it. The 7 mile per hour wind is now going to cause a bit of a headwind effect of, let's say, 1 or 2 yards. So this is probably, if I can pull this off, this could be quite a decent wee shot. Okay, so I do pull the slow, so we're going to be right at the hole, which I thought, and that's worked out quite decent. So I basically played that shot as if it was just a normal shot. There was no difference, no changes in what it was, because it's light rough. So as I just go over again, if it's in a 90s, if you work out the average of the two percentages to be round about 90% or in the 90s, don't make any changes to your shot unless you're playing anything over about 150. Then maybe work with 10 or 15 yards here and there, but don't really worry about that. You'll just get used to it. If it is in the 80s, you're wanting to take out about 10%, and if it's in the 70s, you're going to want to work out around about 20%. It's going to be rare that you're going to have a shot of about 60% average lie angle. If that's a lie condition, if that's the case, to be honest, I'd be looking at just chipping out. You're probably not going to have much success on much shots, but if you do, keep the theory going and maybe make it 30. I've not yet worked out that, so we'll play it with that. So we're going to jump over to heavy rough, and then we're going to have a look at bunkers, and hopefully this should help you guys. Okay, so we're now on the third hole of the same course. Just pulled my shot slightly to the left. I'm just off left of green here, which you can see down here. This is the dreaded golfer's shot. You're playing over a bunker, but you've got enough green to work with. So the automatic club it's given me is a pitching wedge at 42 yards and the pin's at 49. We can see elevation change at 2 foot up. I would maybe add 1 onto that and just make it 50, just to make it easy. First thing we're going to check is a lie angle. Here's a look at the lie angle. So we're not really getting much in the way of horizontal, just a slight left to right, but when you're playing a flop shot, anything like that, it's not going to make much of a difference. But what we do have is it does show this ramp that's coming down from the green, so it's higher at the furthest away line and closer at the bottom of the screen. We do need to take that into consideration, that as an amber. So if we just played that normally, what's going to happen is our shot is going to come out quite aggressively. What we would actually need to do here is just slightly close the face, and it's just going to allow the shot just to come off a wee bit better. If you can imagine Phil Mickelson, when he played his backwards shot, he was playing in a very, very similar hole at this, but it was an extreme hill he was on, and what he was able to do is actually flick the ball round. You don't want that, because elevation's already going to be here with a shot like this. Again, just closing the face is going to bring the ball back down and just make sure that it's not going to go as high. Okay, so we're happy with that. As long as we're on the back of our head, we're going to need to deal off slightly. So let's now look at the green, right? The green is running down to the hole, which is good, but it's also a right to left. So if we landed the ball roughly about here, on an easy flop shot, it's going to run down to the hole, okay? And again, we'd probably want to take 1 or 2 yards off because of the wind. So a shot like that, maybe with about half or 3/4 de-loft, is going to run down to the hole quite nicely. Okay, what's our problem though? We're sitting in heavy rough. we're sitting at a heavy rough, which is probably about 67% difference, right? A 67% is telling you that roughly you're going to have 33% of your shot reduced. So 33% of 42, what's that, about 12, 13 maybe? So 13 yards of a difference, right? So 1/3 of your shot is going to be taken off. So we really need to think carefully about this. But remember what I said, if you're within the kind of 60s or pushing up to the 70s, you want to be looking at about kind of 20 or 30% here. So I would say about 30% is going to be a rough figure of what we're looking at. It's going to be about 12% difference. So if we know it's 49 yard to the pin, we need to be looking at a club which is, let's see, 42 with the wind. We need to add, see, that's probably perfect to be honest, but a pitching wedge, we can't go any more than that with a flop shot. Okay, so we've got a couple of options, right? If I hit this shot the way it's going to work out, my ball's going to land roughly about here, right? That's not good enough. But what we do have is quite a decent run of the green going down to the hole, so we can utilise the D-loft in which we need to put on anyway because of this shot. So if we put our D-loft right down here, we could get closer to the hole. I very much doubt we're going to get all the way down there, but what I don't want to do is start playing about with pitch shots and things like that. I'm not a fan of pitch shots, right? So let's try this. It's going to get us a lot closer anyway than a normal pitch shot, but a normal flop shot, but we'll see. We should have some success. That's actually too much. Okay, so it's now giving us a good opportunity to show the chip shot. So know your green, work out everything just to know that the shot that you're going to pull off is going to be the best shot in which you can do. So if I did pull a pitch shot off here, I'm going to be in the same position anyway. It is going to run off the back of the green, so I probably could have taken off just a wee bit of that D-loft. Alright, so now chip shots. Right, chip shots is something we will be looking at around the green, but you do need to take account of what is happening with your rough there, with your 91 to 96. You are going to have a slight reduction in this, and it's obviously telling you a 9 yards carry on a normal lob shot. I do have a chipping video which shows you how to get this shot a lot less, or how to get it a lot closer than you normally would, but for the purpose of this video, we're going to be looking at bunker shots next. I'm not going to be bothering too much about the chip shot, but let's just see if we can get as close. Not really. Okay, move on. We'll go to 2 bunker shots and see what we can do. Okay, so we're now on hole 4, the dreaded bunker. It looks as if we're playing it into the sun, right? A number of things you need to look at. First thing, like any shot, check your lie angle, okay? So it's ramping uphill and it's also going from right to left. So what we need to think about is just slightly moving this over to the right, okay? And that would work out quite well. Okay, next thing we need to look at is what's happening up at the hole. It's 27 yards and up 10 foot. So that is roughly playing about 30 yards up to the hole, okay? But the next thing we need to look at is a lie condition. A lie condition 77 to 85. Let's work that out as an average of 80. And what did we say 80 was? Take 10 yards off. So that is playing 30. It's going to be more than likely a 40 yard shot. Okay. So what we need to do is move that up to roughly our pitching wedge, right? You might think that looks crazy, right? But I'm going to show you something. Now let's look at the green. This is a fantastic green to come into for a flop shot. Reason being is that hill is running down towards us, right? So you can actually see here that this slope is running down towards us. It is going from left to right on that screen, and it is running directly down towards us. What that's good for is spin, right? You can actually generate quite a lot of spin on this shot here, and I'll guarantee you we're going to play past the hole and generate spin. Personally, when I play on an elevated green like this from a bunker, anything above 9 foot, I take my loft right up, usually on a pitching wedge, and I'll crank it right up. I'll play the shot just past the hole and just let it spin down. So we need to go and have a look at the green to make sure that we're going to spin it in the right direction. We need to be right at the pin. Okay, so I'm just double checking everything. I know it looks as if I'm just jumping about, but I'm making sure that everything seems okay in line. Let's see what we can do here. Okay, so we are going to get a wee bit of spin. Don't worry about the wind. The wind isn't going to affect a shot. That's very, very slightly if it does. Okay, let's see if we can generate some spin and get us close to the hole. Again, have a look. We are well past this hole here. Well past it. Okay, now the ball's coming back. So the spin there was just the ball stopping up very, very slightly, and it's actually worked out quite well, and we should have a chance at just putting the ball in the cup. Lovely. Okay, so hopefully that's helped you on what to do. It's about being more aggressive in your shots. Don't worry about the fact I've got a 6 on there. It's just because I was chipping about trying to get it in the bunker. Hopefully that's helped you see that sometimes being a wee bit more aggressive pays off. I don't know how many times I've played a shot and I'm thinking, why is that landed so short? Like, why? I done everything right. I don't know what was wrong. It's just for the simple fact of the lie condition you're in. Take advantage of elevated greens when you're playing out a bunker and play it past and spin or check it up. It's something which, to be honest, when you first do, you think this isn't going to work out right, but it does. It works out well. We're going to look at more how to play around the green on video 4, which is going to be around the green and on the green, but for the purpose of this, it was just to quickly show you what happens with lie angles and lie conditions. Lie angles, don't really pay much attention to them unless you're working with ambers on reds. Don't really worry about them. If you've got a condition which is, as I said, we'll just reiterate with this, if you've got a lie condition which is in the 90s, so if you worked out the average is 90 or higher, don't bother with changing anything, just play your shot as normal. If you're playing a shot which is between 80 and 90%, roughly work it out between 10 and 15%. If you need to use a calculator, do it. That's what I do. Work it out as roughly about 10%. If you've got a lie angle or lie condition which is in the 70s, you want to do it for 20%, and if it's in the 60s, you want to do it for 30%, roughly. Okay, use your discretion. If it's in the low 60s, you probably want to add a wee bit more on. If it's in the low 70s, a wee bit more. If it's in high 70s, maybe a bit less. So be smart about it, you know, but it's a rough calculation to just try and show you the potentials of what you can do. The other thing I didn't really talk about much on is the wind calculations, right? Something which grabbed my attention was a post I saw from somebody a wee while ago on a forum, and the guy was talking about the wind calculation for headwinds and tailwinds, right? He was saying, yeah, if you're playing a high lofty club, if it's a 10 mile per hour wind directly in your face, you're wanting to add 10 yards on because your ball's going to go roughly 10 yards less for a 10 mile per hour. So it's like a 1-to-1 ratio. Again, with a tailwind, if you had 10 mile per hour wind behind you, your ball's going to go roughly 10 mile per hour further, right? I tried that out, and to be honest, with varying success, it was quite accurate, but some shots it really wasn't. And I thought, well, why? It can't be like that for all the clubs. Obviously, the higher loft you go in your club, so something like a lob wedge or a gap wedge, the wind is going to affect those shots a lot more than it is on like a 6-iron shot. So is there going to be something to work there out? What I think that I've worked it out to be the case is on a 9-iron, that is the case. On a 9-iron shot, you're working on a 1-to-1 ratio. So a 9-iron a pitching wedge, roughly. We'll say 9-iron now for the sake of argument. If you're playing a 9-iron shot into a green with a 10 mile per hour headwind, you can expect that ball to go roughly, but very close to 10 yards shot, right? For a 10 mile per hour headwind. If you're playing a 9-iron shot into a green and the wind is behind you for a tailwind and it's 10 mile per hour, you expect your shot to then go 10 yards further. That's a rule of thumb. For every club you go less, I roughly work it out to be about 2 yards. So if you then drop down to an 8-iron, I'd expect a 10 mile per hour tailwind to go roughly about 8 or 9 yards extra. And then if you go in the opposite direction, you then go to your pitching wedge, I would expect it to go roughly about 11 or 12 miles, 10 or 11 or 12 yards further. There's so many miles per hour and yards and everything, I'm getting all confused. Add 1 or 2 extra onto your shot. So if you come up to a shot that requires a gap wedge, for instance, which is 3 clubs more than your 9-iron, I would roughly work that out to be about 4 or 5 yards extra than 10 mile per hour. So get your 10 and think, well, it's 10, but I'm going to add an extra 4 or 5. So I'm going to assume that if I'm playing a lob wedge with a tailwind at 10 mile per hour, that ball's going to go roughly 14-15 mile per hour. It's not an exact science, and it's probably complicated to get that into your head when you're playing it, because I'm probably not explaining it very well. But just to let you guys know that a 1-to-1 ratio for headwind and tailwind, mile per hour to yardage, only really works on a 9-iron. The less club you go, change it up about 1 or 2 yards. For the higher the club you go, you want to add on 1 or 2 yards onto your yardage. So hopefully that helps, and leave a comment, a like, whatever you want to do. This video, to be honest, has burst my head. There was tons and tons of stuff that I had to look into, and I know I've probably not explained it right, but if you've got any questions, leave it in the comments below, and I'll do my best to get back to you. If you guys have got any theories or anything you want to add to what I've spoke about in this, please bang it in the video below, in the comments below, and we'll get around to doing that. So I appreciate your time, and we'll leave it there. Okay, cheers guys, thanks.